The Daily Mail's publisher handed Harry a £10 million legal bill this week. My hat, I forgot my hat, sorry. Forgot my hat. Okay, we should start again. Oh, well, the Daily Mail publisher handed Harry a £10 million legal bill this week, and that's only the beginning of today's story. But the real entertainment comes from what else is going on in Harker world right now. Meghan's back in public with some very convenient wisdom about hard days. There is a report about what Harry needs Meghan sign off for when it comes to taking the children to the UK. A commentator is describing a rival royal court that sounds remarkably on brand, and Harry has decided he is not a ginger after all, with a caveat. Welcome back, my Royal Rogues. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the Royal Rogue. Let's get down to it with my hat. So let's start with the legal situation because the numbers are extraordinary. Harry's privacy case against the Daily Mail's publisher, Associated Newspapers, ended in defeat earlier this month. The High Court judge dismissed what the Express is calling a speculative £50 million claim, ruled that none of the claimant's evidence was sufficient and sent Harry home without a win. Yeah, that part you already know. What's new this week is the bill. Associated Newspapers walked into the High Court on Wednesday and asked for an initial £10 million from Harry and his fellow claimants and their legal teams. But it's not the amount alone that's worth paying attention to. They want costs on what's called an indemnity basis, which is, if the judge agrees, would instruct Harry's side to cover the full legal costs for both sides of this entire case. Both sides. So, Associated's own total legal bill, according to the Express, around £34 million. So that £10 million is the opening number on what could become a much larger final reckoning. The language from Associated's lead barrister, Anthony White KC, was not gentle. He described the claimant's individual cases as pursued for the most part without any supporting documentary evidence. Ouch. He told the judge the conduct was highly unreasonable and inexcusable, and that it led to significant costs and time being wasted by Associated in preparing to meet allegations, only to find them being subsequently abandoned or changed at trial. And then the line that should make any lawyer in the room wins. If the claimant's conduct in these proceedings does not attract an order for indemnity costs, then it is difficult to see what case would. That is a King's Counsel telling a High Court judge that this is precisely what indemnity costs were designed for. So the matter goes back to court, so the final number isn't settled. But what is settled is that a £50 million gamble ended in defeat, and the cleanup has its own price attached. Because Harry spent years on this, he gave evidence in the witness box. He made it part of his public identity. The man who would hold the British press accountable. And now he's looking at a bill that opens at £10 million, with an opposing barrister on record saying that his team wasted the court's time with allegations they later abandoned or changed during trial. So the Sausage Squad called this a crusade for truth. The judge called the evidence pretty much like Harry's IQ, insufficient. So there's a difference between those two things. And this week, that difference has a number on it. So if you're keeping the score, this was a case Harry chose to pursue with a £50 million figure he put in the headlines against a publisher he was very publicly at war with for years. So none of that was imposed on him. He walked into that courtroom with a strategy and a price tag. The strategy simply did not hold. And the price tag is now coming back the other way. And because speaking of performances that don't quite land the way they are intended, Meghan made her first public appearance in weeks on Tuesday, a few days after returning to California from the family's UK trip. She was in Los Angeles for a special screening of Cookie Queens, a documentary she and Harry executive produced through Archwell Production. And the film follows 4 girls competing to become top sellers in what's described as an 800 million cookie business. So Harry wasn't there. Meghan was, and she went on stage for a Q&A, and someone asked her how she motivates herself through tough moments. And here's where the camera should have zoomed out, because Meghan didn't talk about the documentary she was there to promote. She didn't talk about the 4 girls in it. She talked about herself, and specifically about what Harry once told her. She said, as reported by People magazine, "I think so much of it. Funny enough, I was thinking about something my husband told me ages ago. Because we all go through experiences, and life is full of surprises." And then came the wisdom. Harry was a helicopter pilot in the British Army for 10 years. And on really hard days, he told her, "Hey, but my love, you know, even if there's a storm happening above the storm, the sun's always shining." All right. But she added that his perspective only comes when you think about zooming out a little. She stressed that no matter what feels insurmountable, there's just always that sun shining above it. Let me pause here for a second. This is a Q&A for a documentary about other people's children navigating ambition and competition in a real business. The question was about motivation during tough moments. The answer ended up being a story about Meghan's own hard days, delivered via a sentiment that Harry shared with her at some point in their life together. So in a week when that same husband's £50 million court case was thrown out and Associated newspapers handed him a £10 million bill, the decision to go public with a speech about storms and sunshine and how the sun is always shining above them is, it's a decision. It's okay, I guess. So Methane has a remarkable ability to make any room, any occasion, any question about her own experience, and to make it sound like inspiration rather than deflection. So the audience at the Cookie Queens screening got a speech about Harry's weather metaphors. What they didn't get was a conversation about the Cookie Queens themselves, which tells you everything about whose documentary this actually is. But moving on, there's a report from Closer magazine this week that Harry wants more UK visits. He's reportedly keen to bring Archie and Lily to Britain more regularly, and a source told the magazine that reconnecting with King Charles is absolutely top of Harry's agenda right now. The source said it's practically all he can talk about. He has his heart set on bringing them back for Christmas, but he'd love to fit in a trip before then, too, if they can find a window in everyone's schedules. That everyone's schedules. There's a possible September trip on the table as well, since Harry attends the Well Child Awards each year, and the awards are held in the UK. The question is, who comes with him? Because according to the Express, Meghan has reportedly made one thing very clear. The children are not traveling to the UK without her. The headline is very direct about it, a stern warning to Harry. Can't take the kids without her. You could frame this in a sympathetic way. Maybe a mother who wants to keep her family together. A woman who doesn't want to be separated from her children. all those framings are, out there. But let's look at what's actually being described. Harry has a desire to reconnect his children with their British roots, with their grandfather, the king, with their extended family. And the message reportedly coming back is that doesn't happen without the methane present. So I'd prefer we go as a family, not let's plan this together. This is more like a warning. Archie is 7. Lily is 5. The father wants Christmas with King Charles. The mother has conditions. And for people who left the royal family in the name of freedom and a quieter life in California, the operational control over a family visit to their grandfather, it's something to, keep an eye on. This is not a mother protecting her children from the unknown. This is brand management. Harry may want the relationship, but Meghan controls the terms of access. The children have now been to the UK, and by all accounts, that visit went fine, I guess. Which suggests the condition is not about their safety or their well-being. It's about who controls the room when the family walks through the door and who appears in the photographs. And now for some geopolitical commentary that sounds, if you think about it for a moment, not entirely far from what we have been watching. A broadcaster named Mark Dolan, speaking on a podcast this week, has put forward a theory about what happens when Prince William eventually becomes king. His prediction is that Harry and Meghan could move to establish a rival royal court, spending up to half the year in the UK in a move that would, in his words, make life a misery for the future king and queen. A Sussex spokesperson called the comments deeply distasteful, and they were specifically right to push back on Dolan's suggestion that this conflict could carry into the next generation of children. Because Archie and Lily have nothing to answer for here. That part of the prediction was a step too far, I think. But the underlying observation about Harry and Meghan's strategy, that's worth talking about for a moment. They left the royal family with a public grievance list, a Netflix deal, a best-selling memoir, and an entire media presence built on their proximity to a crown they walked away from. So the moment William takes the throne, that equation shifts permanently. Harry becomes the estranged brother of the reigning monarch. Meghan becomes the Duchess who stepped back from her senior royal role. And the question of how they stay relevant in that landscape without a formal position and without official duties hasn't been cleanly answered. So a rival court isn't the most extreme framing for what they have been building, if you think about it. Archwell Productions is real. The Netflix deal is mostly real, I think. The public platform is real. The return to British soil with the children this month was real. So I am not endorsing the prediction. I am noting that for people who supposedly left to escape the institution, the infrastructure they have assembled looks remarkably like someone who intends to stay in its orbit. Call it a rival court. Call it parallel operation. Call it whatever you like. The Harkles left the royal family. They haven't left the frame, which is either evidence or exactly what Dolan is predicting, or it's two very ambitious people who simply don't know how to stop making themselves this story. Either way, the infrastructure is there. And infrastructure tends to get used. And finally, let's close out today with something that is in some ways the perfect footnote to a week like this one. I made a video that Harry appeared on a podcast earlier this month, believed to have been recorded during his UK trip and released the week after. The conversation covered grooming routines, the Invictus Games, general life, General stupidity. And then the host asked Harry what people most often get wrong about him. And you remember that his answer was, "Oh, that I'm not ginger." And he explained, "Yeah, people think I'm ginger, but I'm more sort of like Sunset Auburn." Yeah, I remember having to say those words, Sunset Auburn. This would be harmless, except for one thing. In the 2022 Netflix docuseries Harry and Meghan, the documentary, Harry has talking about Meghan meeting the royal family for the first time, and he said, maybe they were surprised that the ginger could land such a beautiful woman and such an intelligent woman. Oh, he said the ginger. His words back in 2022. And now in 2026, on a different podcast, he wants it on record that he is not, in fact, ginger. He's more of a sunset. So the 2022 version used ginger as a self-deprecating punchline that doubled as a compliment to prove that he'd won the beautiful and intelligent woman despite the whole situation. The 2026 Gingerbread finds the label inaccurate. So people are allowed to feel differently about things over time. Fine, that's normal. But in a week when Harry's court case collapsed over evidence the judge found insufficient, and a barrister argued on record that his team abandoned and changed its allegations during trial, the instinct to walk back a self-description that only he introduced in the first place is very on brand. Because the hair is trivial. The hair doesn't matter. I hope that it doesn't matter for Harry, by the way. But nobody's legal strategy turns on whether Harry is ginger or auburn or a warm sunset haze at golden hour. But small contradictions matter in a large body of work precisely because they are verifiable. When someone calls himself the ginger in 2022 and says, I'm not ginger in 2026, there's nothing to investigate or reframe. He said that, then he said the opposite. And if that happens with something as visible and simple as hair color, it's worth remembering. But it happens with things that are considerably more complicated. So the picture that's emerging from this week is of two people who have turned every exit into an entrance. But the bill for some of those exits is now starting to arrive. I'm sure this is not the last we hear about any of it, but let me know what you think about this in the comments. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the Royal Rogue. Much love and bliss.